Two men walked across the desolate land where the sun never reached, and grey, low clouds covered the sky like a shroud. They advanced through the endless, grey, and deafening silence of the north. The sky had settled like a shroud over the earth. The clouds had swallowed the sun's last hope. The heavy bags of gold they carried weighed down on their shoulders like mountains with each step. Just then, the foot of the man lagging behind slipped on a mossy stone. A sharp crack of bone cut through the silence like a knife. As the man collapsed to the ground in agony, only one name cried out. Bill. Bill had crossed to the other side of the river. He stopped, turned his head slightly, but didn't look into his friend's eyes. In that brief second, a balance was struck in Bill's mind. Either he would stop for his friend, and perhaps both of them would die here. Or he would take the gold and leave, increasing his chances of survival. Leaving his friend's desperate gaze behind, Bill silently disappeared behind the misty hills. Our hero was left all alone in the freezing water, his crippled leg injured. At first, he thought Bill was joking. Then he lied to himself, believing he would surely return. But as hours passed, and only the distant cries of wolves could be heard, is understood, Bill was gone in his fat. But when the sun set, and only the howling of wolves was heard, he understood the truth. Now, it was just him and the merciless Alaskan wilderness. Bill was on the other side of the river. Eluked back, but there vid no frenes. Only the savage dullness of survival instinct. Bill adjusted the heavy gold bag on his shoulder and disappeared into the mist. Our hero was left all alone in the freezing water, his crippled leg injured. The next morning, he encountered an enemy greater than pain, hunger. When he finished the last crumb of biscuit in his bag, his stomach began to rumble like an empty well. He tightly bound his leg with rags cut from his trousers. He could no longer walk. He had to crawl. He began to crawl along the sharp stones and muddy swamps, propped up on his elbows. He dragged the bag of gold, for which he was willing to die, along the way. With the smile behind. First half, then a large portion. Finally, when he realized that the glittering dust was worth less than a sip of water or a piece of dry bread, he scattered his fortune in the middle of a desolate valley. Now, instead of gold, he carried only the weight of the will to live. At one point, he found small, sour fruits in a swamp. He ate them along with the soil. Then he saw tiny fish in a puddle. He waited for hours to catch them, his hands freezing, his nails bleeding from digging at the stones. When he finally ate 1,000 bones, no mealis, no morsel so precious. The bag of gold on his shoulders was no longer a fortune, but a burden. He scattered tens the rest, because he had finally understood that gold neither filled the stomach nor allowed the soul to breathe. His body had become a skeleton. His lips were cracked and bleeding, his eyes sunken into their sockets, only gleaming faintly. Perhaps, on the 10th day of his journey, he felt a shadow behind him. Turning, he saw a wolf just as exhausted, its fur falling out, sick and old. The wolf, too, had been abandoned to die by its own pack. The two creatures began to crawl side by side in this wretched and savage scene of nature, each destined to be the other's executioner. Both were in the most wretched state in nature. The man crawled, the wolf following a few meters behind. Sometimes the man fainted. When he awoke, he felt the wolf's warm, fragrant breast neck. The wolf was patient enough to wait for the man to become completely motionless before sinking its teeth in. The man, however, opened his eyes again each morning, solely to avoid becoming the wolf's prey. One day, the wolf began to lick the man's hand. It was actually tasting it. At un moment, with the last of its animalistic strength, the man grabbed the wolf by the throat. The two creatures wrestled for hours in the mud. The man survived not by strangling the wolf, but by sucking its last lifeblood. The wolf was the man's death. But strangely, that fear had become the only thing tying him to life. Once, when he awoke, he noticed the wolf licking his hand. The animal was tasting his blood. At that moment, the ancient men awakened. Days later, the crew of a whaling ship on the coast encountered an unbelievable sight on the beach. A creature of unknown origin was zigzagging across the sand. It wasn't a bear. It wasn't a wolf. It was a man, his skin clinging to his bones, his eyes sunken, but the fire in his gaze still burning. When the sailors disembarked, they found Bill's lifeless body and his empty gold bag beside him. Bill had trusted in gold, but lost his soul. Our hero had lost everything but refused to surrender his soul to nature. When he was taken aboard the ship, he didn't speak for days. He only ate and slept. He hid every meal on the ship under his pillow, because his mind was still a prisoner of that freezing hunger. But when he looked in the mirror, there was no longer pain in those sunken eyes, but the triumph of a spirit that had conquered death. Jack London's epic proved to the world that man's greatest weapon is not his intellect, but that unquenchable passion for life within him. Jack London's story whispers to us, man is not merely a being of flesh and bone. Man is that immense passion for life that can say, I am here, despite betrayal, hunger, and death. When life strikes you at your weakest point, never forget, the light within you is stronger than all the darkness outside. Nobility, my fellow traveler, this story by Jack London, set in the freezing Alaskan tundra, is actually a mirror of that hidden strength within all of us, that unquenchable passion for life. Perhaps you, too, are currently experiencing the grey and silent winter of your own life. Perhaps the bills you trusted most have abandoned you. Perhaps you are crawling in the vast emptiness of despair with a crippled leg and an empty stomach. But never forget, what kept that man alive was neither the gold in his pocket nor the help of others. What kept him alive was that will burning in the deepest parts of his soul, a will that conquered death. Life can sometimes catch you at your weakest moment. It can break you, wound you, even bring you to the point of giving up on yourself. But look, every crack in nature is an opportunity for light to seep in, just like in that man's story. Sometimes you have to lose everything to be able to stand upright. Because when you lose everything, only the unwavering essence, that sacred passion for life, remains. Now, take a deep breath and feel your heart beating. That shot whispers something to you. You're still here. You still exist, and you're still very valuable. Your wounds don't diminish you. On the contrary, they are medals of your victories against life, dirty or clean, broken or intact. The value of your essence never changes. Thank you for being with us on this sacred walk, this inner journey. May your mind be calm and your heart filled with self-love on those serene and ancient paths of your soul, until we meet again in the next story. Because you are a miracle unlike any other in this world. May your soul always be filled with peace. Until we meet again on our next inner journey. Farewell. SoulWalk.